This is a video on graph interpretation. Start with a couple of tips. First tip is to think about what type of graph it is that you're looking at. Is it a distance versus time graph, or is it a velocity versus time graph? Second tip is to understand what the zero represents on the graph. And then the third tip is to think about what the difference is between the positive and negative side of the graph. I'm going to show a bunch of graphs. I want to figure out what the speed and the direction are for each of the graphs. First one looks like this. It's a distance versus time graph. I want to think about the speed to begin with. On the speed on this one, this is an object that's at rest. At each second, the object remains at the same location, 5 meters away from the start point. On the top half of the graph is the positive distances. On the bottom half of the graph are the negative distances. Positive just means you're to the right of the start point. Negative just means you're to the left of the start point. So in this particular graph, since we're on the positive side, we are to the right of the start point. This graph, very similar, except now we're down on the negative side of the graph. So we remain at rest, but we are to the left of the start point. This graph, think about what the zero means. Here we're still at rest. Position does not change. Since we are at the 0 point, that means we are at the start point. In this graph, the object has a constant speed. I know it's a constant speed because it has a constant slope. And the slope of a distance time graph is the speed. So if it has a constant slope, it has a constant speed. For the direction, we're moving away from the zero, we're getting further and further away from the start point. And again, since we're on the positive side of the graph, we are moving to the right. For this object, again, our speed is constant. We have a constant slope, so that's a constant speed. My direction, again, I'm moving away from the 0 point, getting further and further away from zero. My numbers are getting larger. The negative just means that I am moving to the left. Here I have an object, again, constant speed, because it has a constant slope. But now I am getting closer to the zero, so I'm moving towards my original start point. And since I'm on the positive side, I'm still on the right-hand side of the start point. Again, think about that slope. Constant slope equals a constant speed. Think about direction. I'm moving towards the 0 point. Because I'm on the negative side of the graph, it just means that I am on the left side of the start point. On this particular object, I start with a slow constant speed, and then I go to a faster constant speed. I'm on the top half of the graph, moving away from zero to the right. I no longer have a constant slope, so I don't have a constant speed. I think about what's going on here with the slope. Here I have a very slow slope, and I progress to a faster slope. So when I go from slow to fast, I am speeding up. I'm moving away from zero, getting further and further away from my start point, and I'm on the positive side, so I'm moving to the right. Again, think about what's happening with the slope. I start with a slow slope. I go to a fast slope. So if I go from slow to fast, I am speeding up. In this particular case, I'm getting closer to my 0 point, so I'm moving towards the start point. But I'm on the positive side of the graph, so I am still moving in from the right towards that 0 point. On my speed, I go from a fast slope to a slow slope. I go from fast to slow, that means I am slowing down. I'm getting further away from my 0 point. And because I'm on the positive side, that means I'm moving to the right. Okay, now I have a fast slope again to a slow slope. So I'm going from fast to slow. That means I am slowing down. My direction now, I'm getting closer to my 0 point. But because I'm on the negative side of the graph, that means I'm coming in from the left. Switching over to velocity time graph now. This particular velocity time graph, I look at my speed. I am maintaining a constant speed. For each second this object moved, it was moving at a speed of 5 meters per second squared. Now in the direction, if I'm on the positive side of the velocity graph, that means I am moving to the right. If I'm on the negative side of a velocity graph, I am moving to the left. So in this particular case, I'm on the right side. I am moving to the right. Now on a velocity time graph, I can't say anything about where I am relative to the start point. I would need another graph or more information to know that. Another velocity time graph. Again, my speed is a constant speed. In this particular case, it's a constant -5 meters per second. Positive was to the right, negative means to the left. So in this case, I am moving to the left. And again, I can't say anything about where I am relative to the start point. I just know that I'm moving to the left. On this graph, again, think about what 0 means. 0 means I am at rest. I have 0 velocity, so it's a constant speed of 0. And in this particular case, there is no direction because I am not moving. Now I have a change in velocity. So in this case, I am speeding up. My velocity is getting larger as time goes on. I go from 0 all the way up to 8. So I am speeding up. Getting further away from 0, speeding up. My direction, I'm on the positive side, so I am moving to the right. And again, I can't say where I am relative to the start point. Here I have an object that is again speeding up. I'm getting further and further away from my 0 point, even though it's a negative number. I'm still getting further away from 0, so I'm speeding up. Positive side of the velocity graph, negative side of the velocity graph. The negative side of the velocity graph just means that I am moving to the left. And again, I don't know where I am relative to the start point. Okay, on the speed, I am slowing down. Again, I'm getting closer to the 0. 0 meaning rest. And as far as my direction goes, I am moving to the right. I am on the positive side of the velocity graph. When I think about my speed on this one, again, I think about where I am relative to 0. In this particular case, I'm getting closer to 0, so that means I'm slowing down. On my direction, I am on the negative half of the velocity graph, which means I am moving to the left. So I'm slowing down as I move to the left. This is the hardest one to interpret. If I look at the top portion of the line from where I start, I go from 10 and I get closer and closer to 0. So I am slowing down. I'm on the positive side of the graph, so that means that I am moving to the right. Or the line crosses 0 velocity. Anytime I have 0 velocity, that means that I've stopped. So it stops at that point, and then I start moving to the left. So I must turn around. And when I turn around and start moving to the left, my numbers get further and further away from 0, which means that I am speeding up.